In this world today, there are many ways to fall from grace and to go astray. We should realize that in our lives we can make a change for a brighter day.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome again to this program, The Two Options. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Here we continue our program here, and I would greet my audience before I continue by the best greeting ever known to humanity, the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be unto all of you. As you know, that the theme that we are discussing in depth is that in our life we face and confront many situations that we have to make a choice. Confront 2 options, 3 options, 4 options, and we have to make a decision. And we Muslims, when we take our decisions, perhaps we are unlike other human beings. We are different in this. Before we take a decision, we immediately try to resort to our Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. A true Muslim would never ever make a decision before he or she would refer to the Quran and try to find any guidance in the Quran or in the traditions of our final messenger, Muhammad ﷺ. And using these authentic and solid evidence that we have, it helps us a lot to make our decision very easily. Unlike other people, it becomes very difficult when they resort only to use their intellect or to their brains or to use their culture as a norm or any other thing. We Muslims, what tool that we use whenever we make a decision? Alhamdulillah. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. Today's story is a very surprising story. It's a story of Musa alayhi salam when he was talking to the Pharaoh of Egypt, Fir'aun. The discussion went between them, and then the Pharaoh of Egypt asked Musa to come to a meeting to compete with the magicians, because those magicians who were classified at that time as the scientists of their time, they used to make the wonders and they used to make all these things, and he wanted to challenge him by this to see what's going to happen. And the Pharaoh was quite sure that his scientists, the most educated ones at that time, will definitely defeat Musa alayhi salam. Then what happened in it? When they met together, the magicians started throwing whatever they have, their sticks and other things, and they changed it as if they became like snakes. And when he asked Musa to throw his stick, he did, and it became a very strong snake, and it swallowed all the other snakes. This was a very strange scene. They have never seen something similar to this, because they used to see the magicians winning a game after a game, a competition after a competition. So it was very surprising to everyone, even to the magicians, the scientists of the Pharaoh of Egypt. And more surprisingly, when they saw this, immediately they understood that this is not a human act. This is not magic. This is coming from a source that's much, much, much stronger than this. In other words, they understood that this is from the Lord of Musa, from the Lord of the Pharaoh, from the Lord of magicians. They understood that this is something divine. And now they had these 2 choices. Either to continue supporting the falsehood of the Pharaoh of Egypt, or to submit and to become Muslims and to surrender to the fact that there is no God except Almighty Allah. This was the surprising situation. The Pharaoh of Egypt could not expect what they have done. To say it in brief words, they selected option number one. They selected to obey Almighty Allah, regardless of what will happen to them. Because, yes, they had been promised that they were going to get lots of rewards, lots of benefits if they compete with Musa alayhi salam, and they won over him. And they defeat him. They were promised high status and high positions and lots of financial benefits. However, they understood that it is the truth and they have to submit the truth. They did not select option number two. They did not want to be indulged in this life and to accept the falsehood, although they were threatened if they accept the truth. If they accept option number one, they will be subject to torture and different types of torture, and they will lose all the benefits that they used to get from the Pharaoh. However, it is the nature of the truth. Once it infiltrates and goes deeply into the heart of a human being, he accepts it fully, regardless of whatever losses and whatever damages that may happen to him or to her in life, because they do believe in later life. They do believe in the endless enjoyment that they will have in later life. Once you see the truth and you are sure of it, they accept it. So here is what they have said. Although they had been threatened, the Quran described this situation by saying, قالوا لن نؤثرك على ما جاءنا من البينات والذي فطرنا فاقض ما أنت قاد إنما تقضي هذه الحياة الدنيا. Meaning, they said, never will we prefer you over what has come to us of clear proofs and over He who created us. So decree whatever you are to decree. You can only decree for this worldly life. What a beautiful meaning. Do whatever you want to do. It affects only this life. And this life represents nothing in comparison with later life. We call it dunya. We call it the temporary life. We don't call it the everlasting life. We call the other one, later life, the everlasting life, that is the real life. So they believed in this. And once they believed, option number one was no other choice except that one. They all-heartedly and wholeheartedly accepted it, and they didn't care of whatever happens to them. This story is very famous, and it's mentioned in many books before. Perhaps it is mentioned in the Torah and the Bible and other sources, and this is very well documented and detailed, and perhaps it's considered one of the longest stories in our Holy Quran because of its significance. And I'd like to tell you that this story happens in our life in different forms. It happens to the believers and the disbelievers, and it happens to the... You see that most of the people who have power, they would pay their magicians, and nowadays it's no longer magicians, perhaps they pay their journalists, the media people, their scientists, their writers, and they pay other people because they have the smartness, they have the intellect, they have their brains, they have their pens, they can write, they can affect people. They use them as a tool to attack Islam or trying to defame Islam or trying to convince people that Islam is not the real religion that you should accept. However, the truth is stronger than armies of magicians and armies of scientists and armies of those who are specialized in writing and in convincing people. It is the truth, and the simple thing is that it comes from the creator of the universe. So it has more impact than all human beings gathered together. If all human beings gathered together to do something against Almighty Allah, they would never be able to do this because He is the all-knowing and He is the Almighty. This story takes place in our life, and I want you And this is an example of the non-believers who have become good and strong believers in just few seconds once they realized the truth and they found it clearly, obviously in front of them. And I think when we use the media in a good way, as it has been used now by all these Islamic, alhamdulillah, channels, and by in the internet, we found a lot of people, alhamdulillah, are coming to Islam, although we don't confront them, although we don't see them directly. We just send our messages, we just convey the truth to them, and it's up to them. But alhamdulillah, it's not our smartness or our skills that had this effect. No, and I swear by Allah, no. It is the impact of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the impact of the truth in their hearts, and therefore we find that lots of people are coming and accepting the truth, which is a replicate of the story that I mentioned, the story of the magicians and Musa alayhi salam. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us understand the essence of this religion in depth and to convey this to other people so that they would be guided to this great religion, so that inshallah it will end up with all of us in paradise. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us support to continue our work, and until I meet with you again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Mamdouh Muhammad.
In this world today, there are many ways to fall from grace and to go astray. We should realize that in our lives we can make a change.